Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Chris sent me a note about a story out of California, and the headline and some of the summaries of the story imply that something very, very strange is happening. But I have to tell you that it's simply bad communication from the government, which shouldn't shock you. Pick things the government does best and communicate the law ain't at the top of that list. So the headline is, Caltrans denies driver's claim for damage from falling debris on Bay Area Bridge. Melanie Woodrow wrote this for ABC7News.com. More denied Caltrans claims. ABC7 News recently told you less than 4% of Bay Area Caltrans pothole and other damage claims were approved by the agency between 2020 and 2023. A Fremont man whose claim was denied decided to do some digging, and the reason that they denied his claim might surprise you. So here's the deal. You're driving down the road and you hit a pothole or something happens, a big chunk of concrete falls off an overpass and causes damage to your car. In most states, you can't sue the state due to sovereign immunity, but they'll often create a law that says, well, you can under certain circumstances, sue us for damage caused by defects in the roadway. And the question is, when can you sue them? And so in this case, a chunk of concrete fell off this bridge and damaged his car. He filed a claim. They said, nope, no claim for you. So he says a chunk of concrete nearly took him out while driving over the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge last summer. And it hit me right about here. It just scared the heck out of me. And I just changed that word for you because I'm keeping this PG because it's a Sunday. It shattered the windshield in his car, and he said if it did come through, it was like aimed straight at my chest. It would have probably killed me instantly. The impact did shower him with shards of glass, and he says, lucky I was wearing my sunglasses. I didn't get any glass in my eye. Otherwise, I could have been blind. Now he can't believe what he's seeing. More than 5 months after he filed a claim with Caltrans for the damages to his car, the agency wrote back letting him know, based on its own investigation, it had determined it was not liable. So they said, we've investigated it, we're not going to pay you. So he said, to me, it's total negligence from the state of California. It's a state-owned bridge, and they should own up to it. But California is like many of the states. They say, well, it's not simply a matter of something happened and it appears to be caused by a defect in the roadway. The question is whether or not the state had an opportunity to repair the defect or was on notice of the defect. That's extremely important. We'll get there in a second. ABC7 News data journalists recently crunched numbers and found that Caltrans wasn't owning up to most of the claims. So out of every 100 claims that get filed with Caltrans, they pay 4. 4% of the claims got paid between 2020 and 2023. The rejection letters are vague. So the man called to find out why his claim was denied. They apparently called him back and left a voicemail. So we know exactly what they said because it was recorded. For debris-type claims, you have to have prior notice of a debris falling, like falling into your vehicle, essentially, sir. It's like debris. Debris claims are fairly difficult to prove because we need to have prior notice, essentially. You need to have prior notice of a condition and then address it timely in order for Caltrans to be liable for damages. So now this is the thing. People would hear that and go, I've got to notify them of damage to my car before it happens. That's what that voicemail sounds like it means, but that's not actually what they were trying to say, assuming they knew what they're talking about. So he then called back and said, if I get something coming down from a bridge, how can I get prior authorization? Shall I call ahead and say, hey, at 7 o'clock on a Thursday night, we're going to have a piece of a concrete coming down from your bridge before that? That is totally ridiculous. In turn, he got another voicemail back where they said, unfortunately, sir, we've already conducted the investigation. Again, if you wish to dispute the claim itself, you know you're welcome to do so through small claims court, which he's considering doing. So he said, I'm sorry if this is the way we are in the state of California. I'm sorry to say this state is doomed. It's kind of a heavy verdict there to render based on your experience, but a week after the incident, the man bought a camera for his vehicle, hoping to catch Caltrans on camera if it ever happens again. So he's thinking that a dash cam might help him. We pay taxes and we expect them to maintain the bridges. We expect them to maintain the roads. Now, a Caltrans spokesperson tells ABC7 News that you can call up to find out why your claim was denied, but that opinion is not explicitly stated in the rejection letters. You only have 6 months from the time of the incident to amend your claim with Caltrans. But in the case of this man, by the time they rejected his claim, that deadline had already passed. Once denied by Caltrans, claimants have another 6 months to file in small claims court. So I'm in Michigan, and I've known about the law in Michigan for many, many years, and it's similar to this. And let me get this straight for you. Under Michigan law, road agencies and other governmental bodies are generally protected from liability claims. One exception to that rule allows the public to seek damages for defective highways if the agency knew about a defect and had a reasonable time to repair the defect, which the law defines as a 30-day window. Meaning that you have to prove either that someone reported this defect to the state more than 30 days ago, or you can sometimes say that the defect has existed for more than 30 days, which should have put them on notice because, seriously, doesn't somebody inspect the roads once in a while? And the thinking behind it actually makes a little bit of sense. I'm not going to say it makes complete sense, but what I'm saying is this. You're driving along and there's a road. Road is fine today. You're driving down it tomorrow and you hit a pothole. The pothole occurred overnight. And you have to understand, it depends on what state you're in. I've been in states that have got roads that are so beautiful, they've got no idea what a pothole is. But in Michigan, there are some roads where I've gone down it one day, and it's fine. And the next day, I see a chunk of pavement this big around that's popped out. And now there's a hole that matches that chunk of pavement, but the hole is open and the chunk of pavement's here. So now you got to think you got to swerve around that's the width of two of those things. And it's a problem. And of course, if you put your wheel in there just right, it might damage the wheel on your car. And what the state is saying is that we can't run around and fix everything instantly. It takes us just a little bit of time. So if somebody does complain and go, hey, there's a gigantic pothole right out there, we'll get to it as quickly as we can. But if we don't get to it in 30 days, we're on the hook for that. And now you might say, but Steve, 30 days is crazy. Well, this is a statute passed by the legislature, signed by the governor. And so if you wanted to change it, that's how you do that. You go to the legislature and get it changed. But I'm sure they're doing it primarily because in a state like Michigan, where pothole season is pretty much any month with a vowel in it, you're going to have a situation where they'd go broke paying these claims. So they decided to draw the line at, if we're on notice of it and haven't fixed it in 30 days, we'll pay your claim. And I suspect that that's what they're getting at in the case here in California. They're not saying that he had to notify them of the crumbling bridge. Somebody had to notify them of the crumbling bridge. And then the question becomes, did anyone notify them? So presumably when he filed the claim and said, I had a chunk of concrete fall off this bridge and smash my windshield, presumably, they went into their data bank and said, okay, have we got any complaints about that bridge? If yes, consider paying him. If no, we're off the hook. And so it would be interesting if somebody were to do a FOIA request and request the documentation regarding that bridge and complaints regarding it and see if anybody had, in fact, complained about the bridge. But keep in mind the other thing, that you are allowed to ignore their denial and go ahead and sue them in small claims court. And I don't know if he could do that based on those timelines you're talking about. But, you know, I've heard some crazy stories about people who had damage to their car and, you know, gigantic potholes and so on. I mean, I've known people who photographed potholes. Like they stopped their car and got out and photographed it. It was, so egregious. The question is, did they notify the state about it and say, hey, get down here and fix this pothole? So that's the deal. But in this case, it sounded like with that message, and this is a pro tip, by the way, I admire the state for actually having somebody who will call you back and leave a message. I think that's impressive that kind of customer service exists at any level in any state. However, they need to tell that person, you need to clarify and explain to people why the claim was denied. And it's not that the claimant didn't notify the state before the accident or the incident. It's that no one had notified the state regarding the condition of that bridge. So I hope that straightens it out, because I'm pretty sure that's what's happening here. I feel very sorry for the guy, and you can imagine that'd be terrifying. You're driving along and a chunk of concrete falls, takes out your windshield, and no one's responsible for that? So, yeah, and by the way, your car insurance, if you've got comprehensive, I suspect. But it's going to vary wildly from state to state, as I like to say. So, Chris, thanks for sending this from abc7news.com. Caltrans denies driver's claim for damage from falling debris on Bay Area Bridge from Melanie Woodrow. Questions or comments? Put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. I'm investing in vintage comic books, as if I don't have enough issues already.